Why do you boast of evil, you mighty man? Why do you boast all day long, you who are disgrace in the eyes of God? Your tongue plots destruction. It is like a sharpened razor, you who practice deceit. You love evil rather than good, falsehood rather than speaking the truth. Selah. And then here's the verse. Verse 4 summarizes what he says. You love every harmful word, oh, you deceitful tongue. Now, the first part, he's criticizing the person who is speaking words, but then he tells us, you know what the problem is? It's not necessarily so much the man as it is his tongue. His tongue is sick. How many of y'all know that if someone is sick, we recognize that the person is not fully responsible for what he does if he's somewhat sick? It doesn't mean he's not at all responsible. It just means we understand there's a problem that he has. And what the psalmist is saying, and this seems kind of very harsh words at first, doesn't it? I mean, it's very strong words, but by focusing on the tongue, he's explaining what our problem is. Our tongue is sick. Now, how did our tongue get sick? It's real simple. The original sin, Adam and Eve took the fruit, and what did they do? They ate it. What part of your body do you eat fruit? Your mouth. I want you to notice the original sin did not involve the feet or the hands. It involved not even the eyes. It involved the mouth. And here's what the Bible says in Proverbs 15:4. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life. Now get this. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life. Now, there were two trees in the middle of the garden, correct? There was a tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, as long as Adam and Eve ate of the tree of life, they ate of it, it nourished them, it kept them alive, it kept them from dying, kept them from aging. So as long as they ate of the tree of life, everything was fine. But something happened. They went to the other tree, which is the opposite of the tree of life. So if the tree of life brings a wholesome tongue, what would the opposite tree do? It would make the tongue sick. And you know what our problem is? We have a sick tongue, a sick mouth. Turn to someone and say, now I found out your problem. Your mouth is sick. Now don't forget, they're telling you the same thing. So the Bible clearly describes that the unregenerated man has a sick tongue. But now here's what the scriptures also say. In the book of Revelation, John said, I saw the tree of life, and I heard the Son of Man say, come, you who are hungry and thirsty, and come and partake of the tree of life. For the tree of life will be the healing of the nations. And one of the greatest healings that God can perform is he heals your tongue. Because as you partake of the tree of life, which is our salvation, and you partake of the Lord, he can heal your tongue. I know if I call for a healing service, there'll be people who's in wheelchairs, people with cancer, people with heart disease. They'll come. But I think few people would say, come, I need my mouth healed. But may I say, the greatest healing I suppose God could do, he can heal our tongue. Because if he can heal our mouth, then you know what happens? We get a lot of other areas of our life healed as well. So today I want to talk about the diseases of the mouth. And I don't mean bad breath. I don't mean dry mouth. I'm talking about spiritual diseases of the mouth. So go to Numbers chapter 14. I want to look at what I think is the number one disease of the mouth. Here in Numbers chapter 14, and I suppose I call it the number one because I do think it is the very first disease that ever hits a child. You ever think, what is the first bad thing that a child says with its mouth? It's not cussing. It's not even, lying is actually the second. You might think lying is. There is something that I think happens to a child even before lying. And here it is. Numbers chapter 14, verse 1. It says, that night all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. Sounds like babies. Here it is. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And the whole assembly said to them, if only we had died in the desert or died in Egypt or in this desert. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Why does the Lord do this? Look at what God says in verse 27. God says, how long will this wicked community grumble against me? I've heard their complaints of these grumbling Israelites. That, I suppose, is the number one disease, and that is grumbling and complaining. And isn't that the first thing that a child learns? I don't like this food. Why can't I have that toy? Tell my brother to give me back that thing. No. Why can't we go to dinner? Why can't we? The first thing kids learn to do is complain. And you know what the trouble is? We've never grown out of it. We just complain about other things now. But it's complaining, and it was their complaining that kept them from entering the promised land. I received an email from a lady a couple of days ago, actually. She emailed me, and this is what she said. She said, Pastor Brown, I have a question. I have been praying for a good husband. I've stood on the word, I have some promises, and I have been confessing that a good man is going to come my way. But here's my question. Why does God keep sending me bad men? I'm praying for good one, but God keeps sending me bad ones. See, just like the Israelites, they're complaining, why is the Lord letting us die? It never dawns on them that the Lord is not bringing them to die. It's their unbelief and doubt that is going to kill them. God wanted to bring them into the promised land. It was their doubt that was keeping God from doing it. How many of y'all want to know what I told that lady? Some of you might say, I have an invested interest in finding out the answer. Here's what I told the lady. I said, sister, first of all, God has not been sending you bad men. Because all of God's gifts are good. He doesn't send you anything bad. Hello? All right? So he's not sending you bad men. Now, here's what the problem is, sister. And here's what I wrote. You are a magnet for bad men. You are attracting them. Your magnetism. Come to me. See, you're praying, God, give me good men. But your magnetism, bring me bad guys, the bad boys. You are a magnet drawing them to you. Don't blame God for it. Don't complain that he's brought you the bad guys. You're a magnet. Then I told the sister, I said, now listen, all you have to do is find out what is it about your personality and your character that keeps drawing the bad men to you, and fix it. Change your personality, change your character, and then when you get rid of that, all of a sudden the bad guys are not attracted to you. God can now send the good guy, but the trouble is he's in the back of the line. I didn't tell her that part, but that's a good one. I like that one. That's the trouble. God send the good guy, but he's in the back of the line because you keep drawing all the bad guys. Change your personality, your character. My point is, here's a woman who thinks she's grateful to God. I'm praying, I'm asking God, I'm claiming promises, I'm even confessing scriptures. But see, she has this complaint about God. So it must be his fault because I've done what I'm supposed to do. But you haven't done what you're supposed to do. You only done some of the things you were supposed to do. And that's the children of Israel. We followed Moses. Did you really? Or did you complain all along the road?